I was 14, scrubbing motel floors while my family was sipping cocktails in Cancun. My mum needed insulin. My dad said he was too stressed to help. I didn't cry. I cleaned. And now, years later, they call me a disgrace at my own graduation. But I don't scream. I show them. This isn't just one of those revenge stories. This one's personal. I was the invisible daughter, not the golden child, not the rebel, just the one people forgot to mention. When I was little, I used to think that love was earned. So I tried. I packed my own lunches. I cleaned the kitchen before anyone woke up. I got straight A's. I even skipped my own birthday party one year to babysit my brother when my parents forgot to hire someone. But nothing ever made me enough. The year I turned 14, my mum's health collapsed. Insulin prices were skyrocketing and my dad said, "We're not wasting money on someone who doesn't even try to get better." Then he booked a golf trip for himself. My brother went to Cancun, and I got a job. Every morning before school, I cleaned motel bathrooms. I brought home wads of tip money folded inside my math homework. No one noticed. When my mum died, my dad told the church she gave up. He never said I was the one who found her, shaking and cold, because the fridge was empty and her insulin had run out. At her funeral, I stood near the back. I didn't have the right clothes. No one saved me a seat. I kept going anyway. Through high school, I worked double shifts at a diner, studied at night, slept in a sleeping bag on the floor of a trailer because our couch had holes, and the bed springs screamed. I applied to 12 colleges. 11 rejected me. 1 didn't, and that was enough. When I got in, I told my parents, hoping for something, just a smile, maybe. Dad laughed. Mum said, "Who's going to pay for that?" Then she said something that stayed with me. "You're not Ivy League material, Leanna. Don't embarrass yourself." So I didn't ask for a cent. I got grants, I cleaned bathrooms, I stocked shelves, and I still made it to the top of my class. But I never forgot that moment. The smirk, the shrug, the silence. They didn't believe in me when it counted. And that's why what happened at graduation wasn't a surprise. It was just the final act. I'd imagined graduation day 1,000 times. The gown, the music, that tiny moment where maybe, just maybe, they'd look at me and say, "We were wrong." Instead, the mic screeched. And my father's voice, sharp, booming, cut through the auditorium like a blade. "She scrubbed toilets to get here. Can we stop pretending she deserves applause?" Laughter broke out from our family's section. My mother didn't stop him. She just adjusted her necklace and looked mildly bored. I froze. Do you know that moment when your body locks up, but your heart's sprinting miles a minute? That was me. I was on stage, in front of hundreds, cap slightly tilted, holding a folder I worked 4 jobs and 10 years for, and I was being humiliated by the people who gave me their last name. My cousin Megan laughed out loud. My uncle whispered, "Embarrassing," like I couldn't hear. Side note, if you were in that situation, what would you have done? Would you walk off stage? Say something back? Just breathe through it? Drop your honest thoughts in the comments, because I really want to know. You might surprise me. Back on stage, I could feel heat crawling up my neck. But I didn't cry. I didn't speak. I didn't move. Because if I moved, I'd shatter. Just when I thought it couldn't get worse, my father leaned back toward the mic. I knew another punchline was coming. But then the dean stepped forward, raised his hand, calmly said, "We have a special guest joining us today." The room murmured. I turned slowly. Click, click, click. The sound of polished leather shoes on tile echoed like a drum roll. And when I saw him, I nearly forgot to breathe. Daniel, dark suit, silver cufflinks. Every step calculated, effortless. My husband. The man they all said I made up. The man they told everyone was too good to be true. He walked to the stage, straight to me, took my hand, and then he turned to face the crowd. "She didn't just clean toilets," he said, voice steady and rich. "She worked harder than anyone I know. She never begged for help. She built everything herself. Silence. Complete, total, soul-splitting silence. And for the first time that day, my hands stopped shaking. The thing about pain is, when you've carried it long enough, you learn to walk without limping. That's what I did that day. I stood beside Daniel, on stage, my hand in his, while silence swallowed the room. My father stepped back from the mic, like it had burned him. My mother's expression had shifted, still blank, but tighter now, like the mask was slipping. I looked out at the crowd. Some students looked confused, others impressed. But what broke me a little more was seeing my family still staring at me like I'd just embarrassed them. Even now, after all this. Daniel leaned toward the mic again, his voice calm, measured. This woman you just laughed at graduated at the top of her class, while working night shifts, while paying rent, while caring for her sick neighbour because no one else would. My uncle's smirk vanished. Daniel wasn't shouting. He didn't need to. His words were surgical, quiet but devastating. She didn't come here asking for applause. She came here because she earned it. I felt my throat tighten, but not from sadness, just from years of holding it all in. What they didn't know, what they never cared to ask, was what it took for me to even get to that stage. They didn't know I studied in gas station, parking lots between shifts, or that I once pawned my only winter coat to buy a textbook. They never saw the nights I came home soaked in bleach, too tired to cry, too proud to ask anyone for help. And when I made it into college, they didn't come to move-in day. When I sent my first straight-A report card, my mother replied, "Don't get cocky." I didn't get bitter. I got quiet. I kept everything locked up so deep I forgot what it felt like to be angry. Until that stage, that microphone, that laugh. And somehow, standing beside Daniel in front of hundreds, I wasn't scared. I was just done. Done hoping they'd see me, done begging to be enough, done shrinking just to fit the small version of me they were comfortable with. The applause started again, soft at first, then stronger. But I didn't care about the noise. I looked at my parents. My dad wouldn't meet my eyes. My mum was chewing the inside of her cheek like she wanted to say something but couldn't find the script good. Because for once, I wasn't going to speak first. I was going to let the silence speak for me. Let the weight of their years of dismissal sit right there in the space between us. I turned to Daniel. "Let's go," I said, voice steady. And we stepped off the stage, not as the family failure, but as the woman they never really knew. Outside the auditorium, my parents came at me like a storm. "What kind of stunt was that?" my dad barked, face red and sweating. "You think marrying some CEO erases who you really are?" "You're still a janitor in a trailer," my mum hissed. "You embarrassed us." I took a deep breath. Not because I was afraid, but because I needed to stay clear. I looked them both in the eye. "You want to talk about who I really am?" Daniel stepped closer, calm but firm. "You don't know the half of it." My dad scoffed. "You think she's some success story? She used bleach and mop water to climb up. That's not something to be proud of." Daniel's jaw tightened. "That's exactly what I'm proud of. She survived." I was still silent, watching, absorbing the moment. Then Daniel turned slightly, eyes scanning the group of family members who had gathered. Cousins, aunts, people who had laughed along inside. "You all mocked her for years," he said, "but you never saw what she was actually doing." He reached into his suit pocket, pulled out a remote, pressed a button. A nearby tablet lit up. On it, security footage, date stamped, audio captured. Clip 1. My dad at a country club slipping a Rolex into his coat. Clip 2. My mum screaming at a waitress, calling her trash in a uniform. Clip 3. My cousin drunk, passed out in his car, police lights flashing behind him, gasps, Somebody whispered, "Oh my God!" "While you were mocking her," Daniel said, "she was building, investing, and protecting herself." He turned to me. "Tell them, Liana." My voice didn't shake. "I bought your house last month, Dad, through a holding company." Silence. "What?" he said, blinking. "That's not legal." "It is," Daniel replied coolly. "You defaulted on the second mortgage. It went to auction. Liana made the winning bid." My mum looked like the floor had vanished under her heels. "Why would you do this to us?" she gasped. "Because for 10 years," I said, "I begged you to stop mocking me. And for 10 years you laughed louder." My dad's voice cracked. "This is revenge." I shook my head. "No, this is clarity. This is control. This is balance." Then Daniel added, like it was nothing, "She also owns the duplex in Boston and the lot you thought belonged to your cousin. She's been 10 steps ahead for a long time." The crowd had grown, students, professors, a few journalists lingering near the gates, and for the first time in my life, I wasn't hiding. "You tried to humiliate me in front of the world," I said, "but I don't feel shame. I feel free." The silence was heavy, like the air had thickened around them. My father's lips parted, maybe to argue, maybe to plead, but then we all heard it. The unmistakable click of a cane on concrete. Click. Pause. Click. I turned. And there she was, my grandmother, Eleanor, tiny, sharp-eyed, and walking slowly toward us in her slate blue coat, as if she'd just stepped out of a courtroom. Everyone parted like the sea, even my parents. "You've all done enough damage," she said, her voice quiet but laced with iron. She stopped in front of me, reached into her coat pocket, pulled out a sealed manila envelope. "I should have done this years ago," she said, "but I was a coward. I watched you carry burdens no girl your age should have had to carry." I looked at her, stunned. She handed me the envelope. "It's all yours now," she said. "The land, the savings, the house by the lake, everything that matters, because you're the only one who earned it." My mother gasped like she'd been slapped. "You can't be serious," she said. "She's manipulated you." "Enough," Eleanor snapped. She turned to my parents. "You stood by while your daughter begged for help. You mocked her for scrubbing floors, and you laughed when she said she wanted more from life. Meanwhile," she added, "you borrowed her student loan refund for Botox and told her it was a marketing investment." My mum's face turned pale. My dad looked like he wanted to disappear into the pavement. "And you," Eleanor said, looking at Blake, my cousin, "you sold your car to buy crypto and lied to the family about a tech startup." I wanted to say something, but I didn't need to. She was doing it for me. "You all treated her like a footnote," she said, "but she's the chapter that saved this family's legacy." I opened the envelope slowly. Inside, notarized documents, ownership papers, account transfers, and a key. "That's for the lake house," she said softly. "Your mother's favorite place." Tears filled my eyes. Daniel put a hand on my back, but my grandmother wasn't done. "You asked why she did this." She turned to my parents. "Because while you were performing for approval, she was preparing for power." Someone in the crowd actually clapped, one single clap, then another, then more. My parents stood frozen, completely stripped of their script. "You're cruel," I said finally, "but not because you're hurt. You're cruel because it made you feel important." I took a breath. "But I'm done playing your background character." And with that, I turned, documents in hand, keys in pocket, heart no longer dragging chains, and walked away. 2 weeks later, I stood barefoot on the wooden floors of the lake house. Sunlight spilled across the room like a warm exhale. The curtains danced in the breeze. Outside, the lake shimmered. Peaceful, still, mine. For the first time in years, I wasn't surviving. I was just living. Daniel handed me a mug of coffee and kissed my temple. You didn't just survive them, he whispered. You turned every scar into something beautiful. I nodded, swallowing the lump in my throat. I hadn't cried when I reclaimed my dignity, but that morning I let the tears fall, not from pain, from wholeness. Later that afternoon, an envelope arrived by courier. Inside, final transfer papers. The house I'd bought from under my parents, officially mine. I had the power to evict them, to burn it all down, but instead, I picked up the phone. Dad, I said, I'm signing it back to you, but on one condition: you apologize, publicly, not in private, not whispered, loud, in front of everyone who laughed with you. Silence on the other end. Then, why would you, after everything? Because I didn't fight to destroy you, I said. I fought to stop becoming you. That Sunday, at a family brunch, my father stood awkwardly, voice shaking. I mocked Liana when I should have celebrated her. I buried her story because I was ashamed of my own. No one clapped. No one laughed. They just listened. And that was enough. Months passed. I opened a scholarship fund in my mother's name. Daniel and I travelled. We laughed more, slept better, lived freer. And sometimes, late at night, I'd remember the way my father's voice cracked in that mic, how the shame they tried to bury me in became the stage I stood on. The girl they called worthless now builds futures for girls like her. Have you ever been underestimated by the people who were supposed to protect you? What would you do if you had the power to get even, but also the choice to walk away? Drop your thoughts below. Let's talk. Because sometimes the quietest revenge is becoming untouchable. Have you ever been underestimated by the people who were supposed to protect you? What would you do if you had the power to get even, but also the choice to walk away? Drop your thoughts below. Let's talk. Because sometimes the quietest revenge is becoming untouchable.